Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to today's IEEE USA livestream webinar, Pitch Perfect, How to Get What You Want in Negotiations. I will now pass it off to our presenter for today's webinar, Principal and Founder of Transition Strategies, LLC, Robin Bond. Hey, Robin.
Hey, Jonathan, and hello to all the IEEE USA members on the call tonight. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you have much by way of my background, but I am a former military attorney, former criminal prosecutor, and former corporate attorney who used to buy and sell companies and do all kinds of deals. And then about 20 years ago, I started my own law firm representing individuals in the negotiation of employment and severance agreements, primarily, also some discrimination claims, wrongful termination claims, non-competes, things like that. But I did that because I really noticed that there were a lot of good people out there who made mistakes that could completely derail their careers. You can go into $200,000 worth of educational debt and quickly fall off your career track if you just don't know a few simple things about how to negotiate for what you want, how to advocate effectively for yourself after you've gotten a job, and how to convince your bosses that you love your job and that you're the person that they want to keep on the team for the future. So today I've been asked to kind of do an introductory sort of conversation with you about how to get what you want in negotiations, because frankly, all of life is a negotiation. You have a significant other, you have children, you have parents, you have bosses, everything is a negotiation. So the things we're going to talk about today should be applicable to you in your everyday life. And I hope that you will take a few nuggets away that you can immediately put to work to help you. If you are interested, as you can see on the first slide there, I've written a book called How to Negotiate a Killer Job Offer, which sort of synthesizes the basic action plan, a toolkit for leveling the playing field at work, for helping you be powerful and sharing with you a lot of the tools that senior executives know and apply every day. My clientele is largely senior executives, and I figured it's always great to talk to the people that will be the senior executives of the future. So hopefully you can learn these tools and these tricks, apply them, and be wildly successful. So that's certainly our goal today. Next slide. Thank you, Jonathan. So the question becomes, well, gee, Robin, if all that is true, then why don't people negotiate more often? Why do they just take an offer letter, sign it, and say, okay, here we go? Well, statistics have shown that up to 49% of people don't negotiate an initial job offer. And this can really result in a loss of a minimum $500,000 to $1 million or more over the course of your lifetime. And that's some serious change. It's nothing to be dismissed. Why? Well, from what I have ascertained by talking to people, it's just total fear. There's a lot of fear that's in negotiation because you have to actually stand up for yourself and ask for something. And of course, your mind usually goes to a far worse place than your boss or hiring manager's mind is going to go. But you're saying, well, what if they pull the offer from me? Or, oh, what if it damages the relationship? Or, gosh, I wouldn't even know what to ask for. Or, I don't want to rock the boat. I hear that so often. I just didn't want to rock the boat. So we have to consider right now that to get you over this fear, Jonathan, give me the next slide, please. Because fear sort of get in the way of our success, not only getting hired, but once we're in the organization, how do we succeed? I put this down because I know I go through this a lot of times. There's a voice in my head that tells me, do this, or who do you think you are, or what makes you think that's going to work? Or if you do that, they'll just do that, right? I'm sure you have your own stories of the voices in your head that sort of bargain down. But what I want to say to you is don't defeat yourself. There are enough people out there in the world that are willing to defeat you before you've gotten started. Don't make the job easier, all right? nobody really likes confrontation. I mean, I think that's a fair statement. Most sane people don't really thrive on the confrontation. So like if you're in a job and you need resources, you need help, but you're afraid to ask, you might just say, oh, I'll just pick up the slack. I'll do all the work myself. Okay. So if we continue to care about making others happy at our own expense, we're going to sabotage ourselves and our careers, because a lot of times people who can't effectively advocate for resources are not seen as having the management potential that's going to be needed to get you ahead. So next slide, Jonathan. So what is the antidote to that fear? The antidote is knowledge. And that's what we're trying to share tonight, because really you can get book smart by reading a lot of stuff. It can be academic. The stuff that I'm going to talk to you about, somebody could academically write about it for 300 pages. But academics doesn't help you. What you need to know is how to take small synthesized pieces of information and actually apply them to your situation and to your work. Right? So we're going to do that tonight. And I'm going to give you some sample asks. And I encourage you, if you have particular questions, to write them in the chat box. And then Jonathan or Daryl are going to help get the questions to me, because I want you to get something out of this. I want you to get, your burning questions answered. And if you don't get your burning questions answered tonight, feel free to email me and we can, follow up later. Okay. The truth is, in negotiation, as with anything else, if you don't ask for something, the odds are you're not going to get it, right? Employers aren't sitting around saying, yeah, I'm just going to start throwing money and throwing resources at somebody. They're going to wait for you to ask and make a compelling case as to why it is mutually beneficial. In other words, it can't be all about you. It has to be why giving you what you are seeking is helpful to the boss, helpful to the company, helpful to the mission. I think that's a very important point. All right. And when it comes to getting hired, if you choose to be one of the 49% of people who doesn't take a chance on negotiating, I'm here to tell you, and I represent a lot of human resources executives, every single one of them has said to me, sure, we're willing to negotiate a job offer. We're not surprised. We expect it in a lot of instances. What they don't want is for you to come in thinking that you are the next Jack Welch now, and that you're going to make all the demands for just the red M&Ms and, a particular type of taffeta coverings on your office cushion seats. I mean, these are the kind of things that you can't do and you won't do, right? But I do want to let you know, employers expect you to negotiate. It's going to be how you do it that makes a difference as to whether you are successful or not. Next slide, Jonathan. All right, I have a negotiation process. I call it a proactive negotiation process. I discuss it extensively in the book, but for our purposes tonight, I want to go over like 4 points, because I think it's a little easier to remember 4 points than to remember 40. So the most important thing when you are getting ready for negotiation is preparation. Preparation is gathering of information, because the more that you prepare, the more knowledgeable you become, then the more power that you have, right? When I'm talking about preparation, some of this information is, who am I going to be negotiating with? I'm sure this audience is great at gathering information. Everybody Googles everyone to find out who they are. They check on LinkedIn to see, do I know anybody that's worked with this hiring manager or this boss? Is this where I want to go? What should I know about them? Right. Prepare who is going to be the person that you negotiate with, and does this person have the authority to close the deal? Because if it's matrix management, there's a bunch of people weighing in, you have to keep that in mind too. That means there's just more and more people that have to love you as part of the negotiation process. All right. Being positively proactive means doing your homework in advance, finding out salary information, industry norms, regional norms, industry, like what should I be paid if I'm working in the finance industry versus the nonprofit industry? What should I be paid relative to that industry? What should I be paid relative to the part of the country in which I'm living? And then what should I be paid relative to the type of work I'm going to be doing? In many parts of the country now, many states, many cities, I don't know, you're all over the country, so I can't really speak with specificity, but for example, here in Philadelphia, it is illegal for employers to ask you what your last salary was. And this law was put into effect a couple years ago to prevent discrimination against minorities, particularly in women who were deemed to have historically earned less. And therefore, if you're always measuring the next job based on an artificially deflated salary, people will never get ahead. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter what you made in your last job. It matters what the duties of the job are for which you're interviewing. And you wish to be paid commensurate with those duties and those responsibilities. And that's the critical question. So keep that in mind. If someone says to you, well, what are your salary requirements? You say, well, I expect to be paid commensurate with the duties of this position. And you might go so far as to then say, what is the salary range for this job? We're going to cover that in more detail, and I'm going to give you a sample ask for money. But being positively proactive, that's what I mean. The third important P here is practicing. Right? I don't believe in winging negotiations. When I work with clients, it's one of the disciplines I have to work with people and say, okay, tell me what you want. I'm here to get you what you want. But after you tell me what you want, you have to tell me why the other side should give it to you. And then we have to practice, or we have to pull together our ask that shows the employer or the current boss, as the case may be, why they should give you this. Okay. You can't just wing that. You have to think about it. You have to thoughtfully put ideas together. Sometimes the inclination is, oh my gosh, I just got an email about this job. I have to immediately respond to that email. Okay, respond. Thank you. I got the email. I'm going to give this the thoughtful consideration it deserves, and I'll get back to you by Friday, or I'll get back to you in 3 days, or whatever. Give yourself time to be thoughtful and respond to something. You don't want to just be reacting quickly, and that's our natural inclination because everybody today moves at the speed of light. Practice a little bit of patience here. And finally, when we are negotiating, we have to consider that somebody may say no to us. So there are times in the course of my negotiations where somebody will say no to me 3 times before they start negotiating with me. And a lot of times it's maybe like an insurance company gatekeeper. All right, let's just deny this claim and maybe they'll go away. Oh, they come back a second time, try it one more time. Oh, they keep persisting. All right, well, let's talk to them, right? And that's what we have to be. We can't be so fearful that we just ask one time, like, do you think maybe you could possibly, and then we fold our tents and go away, right? So I'm going to show you how to be persistent, but certainly you don't want to be a pest, because once you topple over into the pest category, you can totally ruin the relationship, and then that's not good for anybody, especially you. Next slide, please. Jonathan, could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. All right. When you prepare, here's a few things that you might want to ask for. You see my little cartoon up there about, I ask for so little, and boy, do I get it, right? How true is that? Good thing is, if we're catching you early in your career, it doesn't have to be your future. Everybody wants to ask for money. People are constantly asking for money, and that's good. Title, what should your title be? Sometimes if you're already employed, you might want to be asking for a promotional title. You might be asking for a stretch assignment so that you can get a promotion. You might be asking for access to networks of contacts and people, exposure through committee participation or project participation. You might need more resources for your project to be effective and for you to deliver the results that the company needs. You might want a strategic introduction, or you might be asking someone special in the company if they would sponsor you, meaning mentor you with a goal of helping to promote you forward for other roles in the company. So these are some of the things to think about as you look at your own career and as we look at the rest of our presentation tonight. Jonathan, next slide, please. Preparation, again, how are we going to ask? The number one way that you want to be thinking about asking for anything is bringing metrics. I would think with the IEEE members here, metrics ought to be a strong suit. But if you've not done this, I'd like you to start doing this immediately and always keep an ongoing log of the projects that you have done, what you have achieved, and do this in objective, quantified statements that show how you created value, how you solved problems, how you contributed to the bottom line. I can't tell you how important that contributing to the bottom line is, because most executives are held to budgets. And if you save money on the bottom line, you make them look good. Therefore, that kind of halo effect comes down upon you. All right. I give you a couple examples of the kind of metrics that you want to have. Certainly, if you're going to ask for promotions or money or stretch assignments. Okay, hey, of the $20 million in profit the company made for fiscal year 19, areas under my direction contributed 40% of that total. Now, I'm just making that up, but I mean, you see, it's very numeric. And that's my goal with you, is to show you want to be really numeric. I brought project XYZ in on time and under budget, contributing $5 million to the company's bottom line, right? These are examples of metrics and how to ask. And every time I have an executive client in and they want more money, I said, you got to give me 2 or 3 solid bullets, just like what I've given you here, that I can work with, because we have to show the other side why you deserve something. It's always about the other side, unfortunately. It's never about you. Next slide, please, Jonathan. All right. In my book and in my conversations with all my clients, I call this the WIFM factor. WIIFM, WIFM, all right? WIFM means what's in it for me, although, of course, the me is not you. The me is the fellow on the lower part of the screen there who says, what's in it for me? This is your current boss. This is your new hiring manager. This is the guy who's listening to you when you say to him how you would like to have more money, you would like to have more benefits, you'd like to have a sign-on bonus, more relocation benefits, work from home, whatever it is. This guy's listening to you. And the bubble over his head is saying, well, what's in it for me to give this to you? Why should I give you what you're asking? So our job, which is a hard job, is we have to make our requests in a way that this guy on the slide can hear us, right? So we are going to show the boss your value. Now, some people will be saying there, oh my God, this is all about self-promotion. I don't believe in self-promotion. Okay, well, do you believe in self-preservation? I hope you do, because some level of self-promotion is necessary for self-preservation, right? And here's what I mean by that. And I give you 3 very specific examples. Keep track of how others praise you. When you get a kudos, an email, or an award, a shout out, you marking that down in your log, or you're printing that out and you're saving that in your performance review file, or you forward it on to your boss. And you say, hey, I just wanted to share with you, how Vice President Jones gave us some really positive feedback. I'm really pleased to have contributed to this project and been part of the team, right? See, you're promoting the achievement, but you're also giving credit to others. So that's what I mean by self-promotion. It's really not a dirty word, but you are making sure that your boss knows what you're doing and that you did it, because if you think the boss has time to monitor every single thing you do and keep track of it, you are dead wrong. That is your job. So we're going to keep doing that. Next slide, please. Okay. Asking for title and budget. Let's just say you want to ask for title and budget. I'm giving you a sample ask here. Now, I'm talking about I words not being good. You know, I put the capital I and a line through it because I don't want you to say, you know, I need this title and budget because it's the next logical thing for me in my career progression. And I really need to be able to reflect that I'm having career progression here, or my resume is going to look awful. Right? No, nobody hears that, right? Because there's nothing in it for the guy on the other side of the table with that kind of an I message. But it is okay to use I's and say, I'll need this title and this budget so that I can be as successful as possible in achieving the goals of the organization. Okay? This shows that you are asking for something, not just for you, but to help you do for others, to help you create value for the team and the boss, not just yourself, right? This totally legitimizes the request, and it makes it more palatable to anyone that hears it. And that's why I take you back to your log of all the things that you have achieved. And if you're going to ask for title or more budget or more resources, you need to be able to document that as numerically as you possibly can so that the other guy can hear you when we ask. Next slide, Jonathan. All right. Now let's talk about asking for money. Okay. You know, I started out by saying 49% of people are not negotiating initial job offers. And then when you do, statistics are showing that women are reporting salary expectations that are anywhere from 3% to 32% below what men expect. And this definitely plays out in my own practice from what I see. So how do you know what is the right thing to ask for? Again, we go through the whole preparation, gathering information about yourself, what you've done for other people, what you've achieved in your career, what you can achieve here, and then getting comparable information. We talked about this before. It's in the book, page 51 to 54, about where do you get industry norms? Well, fortunately, you're smart enough. You belong to IEEE. Professional associations are excellent at providing salary survey information or comparable data information. Some other places you can go to get that, you can go to the Edgar. Have you ever heard of edgar.gov? edgar.gov. It's the Securities and Exchange Commission website, and every publicly traded company has to post information there about compensation plans, severance plans, what they pay their top executives. You can see the employment agreements there. So search that, and you can get a lot of helpful information. Other places you can look, Dun & Bradstreet's. You can just go on the counterculture websites. I'm sure you know all about those. Cafe Pharma is one for pharma. I don't really have them all handy in my mind here, but Glassdoor, certainly, Vault. You can get a lot of information about companies, that information there. So next slide, please. All right. Okay. I think I kind of covered this, Jonathan, so go ahead and go to the next one. All right, let's do a sample ask for money. And we're going to do it the WIFA way. All right, the WIFA way we talked about is the what's in it for me way, meaning what's in it for the guy on the other side of the table. What's in it for him to give you what you're seeking. So if we apply the principles I've talked about, here's my sample ask for you. If you go into your boss and you would say, dear Mr. Smith, based on what we've accomplished to date and where we are now positioned to go, I think this is the right time to speak with you about a move up in my compensation. I could not have achieved all I have achieved without your support as my supervisor. Right? I'm laying the groundwork. So the guy can hear what I have to say. I'm not going in nervously. I'm going in saying this is a conversation, right? A negotiation is a conversation. It's not a lecture. You want to give some information. You want to set the groundwork and make it a pleasant introduction so that you can get Mr. Smith's attention. And you're talking about what we've accomplished, where we're now positioned to go. I think the time is right. Boy, timing is important, isn't it? Like if you go in and sales are down 40%, they're having mass layoffs, probably not the right time, right? So timing is always very, very important in terms of when you're going to go in there. Also, when you go in to talk to Mr. Smith, things are important, right? I have to say, you want to build trust here. And the way you build trust in negotiations is try to mirror the person with whom you are negotiating. There's mirroring is a whole other intensive conversation, but to generalize it, we could say, look, you would want to dress nicely, appropriately. If business casual is the standard, that's exactly what you wear. But if Mr. Smith takes it up just a little notch more, maybe you do that too. If you're looking at him, you're looking like him, you're acting like him. It builds sort of an implicit connection, all right? And smiling, not big grins, but just turning up the corners of your mouth shows warmth. Even if you're pushing back, you still want to smile when you're negotiating because it shows that you're not mean. You're just trying to have a conversation, right? You're building trust. You're building rapport. You're showing a connection. These are very important things when you're asking for things, especially for money. Next slide, please. I wouldn't recommend you want to do this by yourself right away. I would like you to practice it. I tell clients, practice what you're going to say. I have even written scripts for people of what to say. And then I say, please go stand in front of a mirror and see what you look like when you're asking for this stuff. Do you look scared? Do you look angry? What do you look like? Because now you can change that. And you can control your countenance, which is very important. I don't have all the statistics here, but nonverbal communication is way more meaningful than the actual words that we say. So you want to watch, well, what is my face saying about me? Are nervous tics appearing? Do I seem nervous? Do I seem uncomfortable? Am I able to make eye contact with Mr. Smith comfortably? I don't want to be looking down, hemming, hawing. Can I speak clearly? Can I convey a warmth, or am I stuttering, stammering, searching for words? So this is a very good idea to practice this negotiation so you get confidence. You get confidence by practicing and seeing yourself in the mirror. You can also role play it with a friend. And then maybe test your ideas that way, right? Like, well, what kind of objections am I likely to encounter? And if I get those objections, well, what will I say? How am I going to handle them? I always suggest that people, when we practice things, say, well, what if you ask for a better bonus or something? You want a higher bonus. And they say, sorry, we just can't do that. You might smile and push back and say, well, I hear you. You don't have to say, oh, okay, but you can say, I hear you, right? Because you're validating, you heard them. Say, what would I need to do? Or are there some objectives or some stretch assignments that I could accomplish to demonstrate to you that I can earn this? And, come back with something. I did that myself actually once to ask, how I could earn an increase in pay. And I got, 5 different assignments that I had to do. And I promptly went out and dispatched them and came back and said, okay, I did this now. Have I earned the trust to receive this pay raise? And the answer was yes. So I want you to practice and say, well, test your ideas, refine them. And then I use a little phrase at the end here. What if we were to? This is a nice way of going back and countering to somebody and saying, all right, well, I heard what you said, but what if we were to like what if we were to say, if I hit a sales goal of, X million, then I could get a performance bonus. Or what if instead of paying me in money, what if we were to offer that to me in equity instead of cash? Maybe if the company's a little cash short, they could do it in equity. So always try and give the other guy a chance to, as I say, be a hero and give you what you're asking for. Sometimes you have to think for them because they aren't necessarily able to come up with ideas themselves. All right. Again, this comes in under the heading of basically your boss doesn't have time to watch you, doesn't have time to know every single thing you do. It's your job to show him what you're doing. I sometimes say this when I do speeches. If you are a magician and you pull the rabbit out of your hat, does it matter if no one sees you do it? The same thing is true for you at work. There are going to be a lot of great things you do that maybe people don't see. But that's why I'd like you to keep your performance log and document it or share that information. And if you send it to the boss, it's not like, hey, guess what I did today? Say, hey, boss, I want to keep you in the loop. Make sure you knew we had this problem and I was able to get a workaround. I wanted to make sure you knew what the workaround was in case this ever happens again, right? You're solving problems for the team. It's not being self-aggrandizing in any way, shape, or form. Okay, next slide, please. All right. When you are negotiating, please, whatever you do, don't apologize for asking. You don't want to come in and say, I'm really sorry. I mean, I hate to say this, or, you're probably not going to want to hear this, but that's just, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. You are beyond that now. We're in this seminar. You recognize that into every life, a little risk must come, and you're going to knowledgeably articulate why it's okay to ask. Right? We did the slide before that said, based on circumstances and what we've accomplished to date, I think the time is right to raise this. Right? Hedge words are words that basically demonstrate you have no confidence in yourself or your case. Speak with confidence, practice in advance what you want to say and why you want to say it. Do not fear rejection. Look, we all fear rejection. We fear it all the time. But I can assure you about this. If you are brave, people will respect you for being brave and well prepared with your ask. And if you ask and you don't get it, you're not going to die. I can tell you one time I was doing a commercial real estate deal and I was terrified. I mean, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I think I was 29 at the time. And I was scared to death. This deal was really big. It was worth a lot of money. And I didn't really, I wasn't sure what I was doing. And I had my hand on the phone for the longest time. And I finally said, okay, Robin, you're just going to pick this phone up. You're going to articulate why you're asking for something and why it's mutually beneficial or why that will close the deal. And if they yell or scream at you, just hold the phone out. You don't have to listen to it. But most importantly, you're not going to die. It seems so simple, but it was very powerful to realize that lots of bad things happen to us, but we aren't going to die because we're tougher than that, right? Bring your facts. Bring your metrics, bring your external validations, right? The external validations from others are saying, boy, you did a great job on this. This was terrific. That's what you want to do. And when you prepare, you can put together a persuasive ask, right? Do be sensitive to timing. For example, the times right now. These are the best of times for some companies, and these are terrible times for others. I don't know what industries that you are working in, but clearly timing is very important, and you have to be sensitive to that. It may not be the time to ask for money, but it may be the time to ask for other benefits that you might like. Or it may be able to ask for equity, like I said. When I say equity, I think you know, I don't know because, of course, I can't see any of you. But by equity, I mean stock options, restricted share units, or phantom shares in private equity companies or non-public traded companies. These are shares of ownership, or they are the opportunity to turn into shares of ownership that reward high performers for delivering value to the company over time. They also incentivize you to stay for some period of time. For example, I can give you stock options, which means I'm going to give you these today just because the company's worth $1 a share today. Fortunately, with your good work and your good efforts, over time, as time progresses, you will make this company worth more than $1 a share. You'll make it worth $2, $3, $4 a share. And each year that you stay with us, 25% of this grant that I'm giving to you will vest. And then at the end of year one, you're going to have, however many shares, 1,000 shares. Oh, wow, at $1 a share, that's yours. If you increase the value beyond the dollar, the delta, the difference between what I gave it to you at and what it's worth now, that's yours. Okay? There's a whole chapter on equity in the book, and it's important to learn. If you're getting a job offer where people are offering you equity, restricted share units, profit interests, whatever they are calling them, depending on the type of company it is, you really should have a lawyer looking at that. Because sometimes in the documents, it looks like they're giving you something, but there's a stock plan document, a shareholder agreement, an LLC agreement somewhere, which taketh away upon certain conditions or circumstances. So I'd like you to be aware when it comes to equity. Get a lawyer to help you with that if you're dealing with it. All right, I think this is my last point on the what to do and not to do, but to be aware of image and body language, very important. That's why I spent a lot of time on that. You've got to make a connection. You're building rapport. A negotiation is a conversation. It's not an argument. But because we are animals, we process nonverbal information and nonverbal cues, very meaningfully. So eye contact, tone, pacing, voice, confidence, nervous tics, these are all really important things that you want to be aware of and work on with your practice so that you too will maximize your chances for success in negotiating whatever you're negotiating for. Okay, final slide, please, Jonathan. All right, in conclusion, if you take the tips that I have shared with you and set your goals high, have some backup options in case your first ask doesn't work, then even if you don't get everything you want, the odds are good that you are going to end up a lot better off than where you started. And that's the objective, right? It's a long, long race. Your career will probably be a long, long race. So it's not a sprint. You're going to learn as you go, and you're going to get better each time you do this. I encourage you to take a look at the book. It's on Amazon for the princely sum of like $10. Mark Cuban of Shark Tank wrote my foreword to the book. So I would encourage you to take a look and certainly contact me in the future if I can be of any help to you. Next slide, Jonathan. All right, at this time, this will conclude my presentation, and I am open to any questions that you may have for me.
All right, folks. So now is time for the Q&A. Go ahead and ask your questions in the comment section, and we'll load them onto the stream for Robin to answer. Robin, here's your first question.
Okay. I'm being asked, do you have any recommendations on how to research about the equity? Private companies. It's very hard. Private equity companies or family-owned businesses, really, there's nothing public about them. The best way I have found to do that is to go onto LinkedIn and try and find connections to people who have worked there or know others who have worked there who could make introductions to you. It's very hard to get that kind of information, but excellent question. Excellent question. And I do a lot of private equity deals. So sometimes you will have to ask the equity firm themselves. Like if you're going to take a job offer with a private equity firm, be willing to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which means if you share private information, financial information, if you, private equity company, share financial information with me, I am promising not to disclose it or share it with anyone else. That's a non-disclosure agreement. It doesn't have a non-compete in it. It doesn't have a non-solicit. It's just like, hey, we're going to exchange confidential information. I agree not to share it with anyone else. They may then be willing to share with you a valuation that was done on the company recently, or they may be willing to share what the valuation was at the last capital raise. And that may be helpful to you in some way. Next question, please. Okay, Daryl's asking, I've heard that the company can pull the offer if I tried to negotiate. Can that happen? Great question. All right. This falls under the category of into each life a little risk must fall. So the company makes you an offer. If you think about contracts, a contract is an offer that gets accepted, right? That's a contract. So if they make you an offer and you say, I accept, but I need an extra $5,000 in base salary, you are not accepting an offer. What you are doing is making a counter offer. And then the effect of a counter offer is that you kill the deal when you utter the counter offer. Okay? So that means the company is not going to pull the offer off the table. It means you yourself are pulling it off the table legally if you make a counter offer. Now, does this happen? I have represented over 3,000 executives and it has absolutely never happened to me. Could it happen to you? Well, the law says that it could, but here is the reality. Companies expect negotiation. Right? It is how you negotiate that will determine whether or not the offer is pulled or whether they stay at the table and talk with you. Okay. My workarounds to counter offers. Okay. The effect of a counter offer being to kill an offer. There's a workaround to that. First of all, don't use negative words. Don't counter offer. Just go back and say, hey, I've got your offer. Generally, it looks good. I just have a few questions. Out of respect for your time, I'll raise them here. Or number two, there's a few things we didn't get to talk about yet. For example, this offer letter has nothing to do with severance. I need to talk about severance. Right? So we can go back and just say a few things we didn't get a chance to talk about yet. Or number three, there's a few matters that need clarified. Okay, so the effect of a counter offer is, yeah, you could lose the deal. Are you likely to? Absolutely not. You could lose it because of how you ask. If you go back and ask the wrong way. The right way to ask is not to counter. You just go back and say, generally this offer looks good. I just have a few questions or a few things I'd like to clarify or a few things we didn't get a chance to talk about yet. And then go on to negotiate. Are you negotiating? Yes. Are you counter offering? Yes. Could you lose the deal? Yes. Are you likely to? No. Right? So that's the magic of negotiation and how you do it. Depends on what your outcome is. Okay. Manish, you mentioned about making a note of accomplishment. What objective piece of evidence should we hold on to prove our claim? Well, if you get an email from somebody saying, great job on the last project, or boy, you really helped me, thanks so much. Print it out, put it in your folder. Okay? If there is a ranking of all the, you guys aren't salespeople, I don't think, but if you were salespeople or you had some sort of accomplishments, if there's a ranking and you're the top one, print that out, put it in your file. You're not stealing confidential information of the company. You're keeping a kudos file or an accomplishments file that you're going to just be sharing with your boss, right? So that's what I would do. Anything that demonstrates what you've done to be helpful. If you get recognition because you did a program with the IEEE USA and got really positive feedback, put that in there. Or if you won an honor or an award, these are the kind of things that you would put in your kudos file. Next question, please. How do you negotiate a consulting contract with a company? Oh, it's different. Okay. When you are a consultant, you do not get a salary. You get a rate, either a daily rate or an hourly rate. The company does not withhold any employer contributions to taxes. You are responsible for paying directly to all taxing authorities, both the employer and the employee portion of payroll taxes. Right? When you are an employee, you could be given a non-competition agreement saying that once you no longer work for the company, you can't go to work for a competitor for some period of time. That is not appropriate for consultants. Consultants are not employees, and non-competes are incident to employment agreements. For a consultant, you would perhaps have to honor some sort of a non-solicitation agreement, maybe saying whoever brought you to this particular company, you won't compete with them for some period of time. But please be very careful not to agree to non-compete agreements in consulting. Right? That's what's very different. Other thing is consultants determine when they work and where they work, and they provide their own equipment, and that is different from employees. So I think that pretty much covered that. Any other questions?
Robin, I think that's it for questions. Folks, if you happen to come up with any questions after this webinar, you can reach out to Robin directly. Her contact information has been provided on the screen. Robin, thank you so much for joining us today and for giving our audience your tips and insights for negotiating their worth during potential job opportunities.
Thank you all so much. I wish you the best of luck. Go be wildly successful.
And thank you everyone for tuning in and for your great questions for our presenter. Check back daily on our social media for updates on future webinars. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day.